welcome to Hiker Homily for April 9th. This is number 15, I believe, for Hiker Homily. Yes, number 15 for the week of April 9th. And pretty much as an intro this week, other than, hey, how are you? How's it going? Some things coming up future for the actual channel is I have still all the footage for the Feather Falls hike, which I took way back in March. Here we are, April 9th, so it's been almost an entire month. I know, I'm sorry, but with all the computer issues I had, and just getting that back up on the feet and all that kind of good thing, and doing a few other things and being kind of busy, a little bit of a spring holiday and spring break and stuff like that, I've just been pretty busy and haven't been able to put that together, so I have all that footage. So a hike report for the Feather Falls Trail coming up this week. I will get it done in the next couple of days. I'll get that edited and out there. Also, just last week, my son was on spring break. My wife, being a teacher in the same school district, was also on spring break. And so we decided to, we had a bunch of stuff going on, and doctor's appointments and dentists and all kinds of stuff like that happening, and my son has track practice. But we did have Wednesday free, so we took advantage of it. We took a nice little road trip into the Bay Area, saw some pretty cool stuff. I took some footage for that, and so I will be doing a little road trip video coming up sometime this week as well. So that's coming up for the channel, aside from this Hiker Homily. And coming up for this month of April, as far as future hikes and things that, you know, that I will be doing, eventually getting footage for the channel. Number one, with the hiking club that I belong to, we plan on hiking the Bay Bridge. It's kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of a combination urban hike, but kind of out there because it's not actually in a city. It's a large, for those of you who don't know the Bay Area, the Bay Bridge, it's actually a longer bridge than the Golden Gate Bridge. The famous Golden Gate Bridge actually is a bridge that goes across the gap between the opening of the San Francisco Bay. Okay, but for those of you who don't know, the San Francisco Bay is huge. It's a big bay, and it leads into the Delta system and stuff like that. And in order to expedite traffic, instead of having to go all the way around and then down or all the way up and things like that, we have the Bay Bridge, which cuts across the bay from Oakland to San Francisco. Well, alongside of the Bay Bridge down below, there is a trail that goes all the way across. So the club that I'm in is planning on hiking that this weekend, barring any unfortunate weather issues, because California weather, I'm going to get into that in a second, it's being weird. Just as usual, the last few springs have just been bizarre. So that's coming up, and I am hoping sometime in April to get a hike going on the Pleasanton Ridge Trail, because on our road trip last week, coming back, we drove through Pleasanton on the freeway there, and you can see the hills surrounding, gorgeous green. Everything, because of the rain we've been getting, stuff like that, beautiful green, all that kind of stuff, and that's a great time to get into the foothills that are just west of me. Before you get to the actual Bay Area, there is a range of small mountains, including Mount Diablo, and moving on through. They're called basically the foothills, because they're, compared to things like the Sierras and stuff, they're not a huge mountain range. But these little mountains that kind of string along there to the west of me, they're about an hour west. All green, all beautiful, and the East Bay Regional Parks do a great job having some great hiking trails through there. So I'm going to try and get to one of those, Pleasanton Ridge Trail, sometime this April, in the next couple of weeks. And I have, I believe, one camping trip that we're planning toward the end of April with the Boy Scout troop that I'm affiliated with, and we're going to be doing that one, like I say, at the end of April, and there may be a hike attached to that. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing a hike or not, but that's going to be up at one of the local reservoirs up in the East Foothills before the Sierras. So that's what's going on for April, stuff that's going on for the channel, and all of this, of course, is barring bad weather. Although some things I'll do rain or shine anyway, other things not so much. There's no reason to make things uncomfortable unless I'm like, if I'm on a big mission super through hike, that's just the way it goes. The weather is the weather. But if I'm just kind of looking at day trips and stuff like that, I just don't need to get into the rain if I don't want to. And it's been so weird. Weather-wise, just a real quick blurb, like today, it's 80 degrees. Now, we had pouring rain just a few days ago. Filming this on Monday, the 9th. Friday and Saturday, just a few days ago, it was pouring. The days before that, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful days. Mid-70s, perfect days. I got out, walked, and did some stuff. Really great. And then Friday, Saturday, pouring rain. A little bit of snow in the Sierras. But just poured rain on us here. Hard rain. Not just some kind of light, yay, April showers. No, it was seriously raining. And then, like I say, today 80 degrees. Looks like it's going to be really nice again tomorrow and Wednesday, and then maybe some sprinkles Thursday, and then rain again in the forecast for Friday. And again, we're not talking about little spring shower. Rain coming Friday, hard rain. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So that's just kind of what's just odd stuff like that. It's just, you want to plan things, and then you look outside like it is now today. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous weather, fantastic. So you get all these cool plans going, and then you look at the forecast and like, what the heck, it's going to pour on me, on these days and stuff. So just bizarre, but weather permitting, that's just kind of how it is, and we'll get out there. So a lot of cool stuff planned for the channel, and we'll see how that goes. And now we're going to move on to our hiker topic for Hiker Homily number 15. So once again, I'm going to try and test my limits as far as the rambling thing. I get it. I know I kind of drone on sometimes. I try to make these things interesting. I try to talk about interesting subjects, but I know I can just kind of get going and run with it. This week's hiker topic is finding hikes. How do you do that? Now, as far as like the big stuff, things like the Pacific Crest Trail, big through hikes and things like that, that's easy. You can Google or go to Wikipedia and search up National Scenic Trails, and you will get a whole list of these big National Scenic Trails. I forgot exactly how many there are. I'm a dummy. I'll try and look it up, and if I can, I will put the number somewhere on the screen. Here, maybe right across here, somewhere. But there are quite a few National Scenic Trails, and those are usually the bigger trails. And it doesn't mean that you can't get out on them for day hikes and stuff. There are plenty of people I see all over the place who will do a day hike, or maybe like an overnight or a two-nighter on things like the Pacific Crest Trail in certain segments. The big part, I used to go all the time near Castle Peak. That's where I learned how to backpack. Some of my earlier backpacking trips, and a place I've returned to many times, just went to it just last summer, is that Castle Peak area, and that is on the Pacific Crest Trail. So that is a section that you can hike. Pacific Crest Trail, you can do an easy overnighter up over Castle Pass into Round Valley, have a great time, it's beautiful, and then back out again. That's the Pacific Crest Trail, so you can do it that way. So the big trails can be used for day hikes too. You don't have to just keep doing all the big stuff, and just that doesn't mean you're committed to a 4 or 5 month long hike. But for smaller day hikes, for me anyway, and just letting you know, I am not sponsored by Wikipedia, I'm not sponsored by Google, or any of the other types of apps or programs, websites I mentioned. I am just truthfully telling you, this is how I find hikes, and things like that. Sometimes it's as simple as I would get on my computer on Google Maps, and you look for that little green field that tells you it's a park. It's either a national park, a state park. Sometimes you will find little tiny regional parks, preserves, but they're all kind of this color-coded greenish color, so you kind of zoom in on that. It gives you an idea. Sometimes Google Maps will actually show you that there are trails there and things like that. But as a preliminary, you can do things like Google searches, wiki searches, and things like that. And that helps. I discovered in my area, just up and down I'm kind of on what they call the I-5 corridor, Interstate 5 corridor that goes north and south through the middle of the state here, through the valley. It's pretty amazing how many of these little, some of them not so little, but these lesser known national land preserves, wildlife preserves, parks, all kinds of little recreation areas that the state and the feds have tucked away here and there along just on the I-5 corridor. And a lot of them have little nature trails you can go on and things like that. I did one, the San Joaquin River Preserve is a national wildlife refuge, and it has hiking trails through it. So I've done one of those. Unfortunately, parts of the trails were flooded at the time. You'll see the hike report if you want to look at that. It's on the playlist. So I'll be going back there to check out the trails that hopefully, the San Joaquin River has receded and is no longer covering some of them. But there's the Great Grasslands State Park. There's all kinds of stuff up and down this valley. And I figured that out just with Google Maps. Now for me, I kind of do different layers. So I'll do the initial Google Map search, and oh yeah, there's some possibilities there in these parks, but is there really trails in the area? And one of the best ways I have found to figure out if there's trails in the area is using either the website, or they also have a mobile app called AllTrails. And AllTrails is pretty good. I mean, you literally can give them your area code or the city you live in, and then tell it, I want to see something, whatever, within 50 miles, 100 miles. You can give it whatever parameters, and it will show you all the trails within that range that's in your area. It'll give you a map, and you can click on that map, and it will give you information on the trails. It'll give you elevation changes, how long the trail is, and things like that. Now, a little caveat, and again, I'm not bagging on them. I'm not sponsored by them either or anything like that. It is a tool that I use, but I have found, and it may be my issue, maybe I'm starting my my hike thing at the wrong place or whatever, but generally when I go to a place to hike and I'm going to measure the distance I'm hiking it in with like, say, Map My Hike or some kind of app like that that tells me, how many miles I've done. That's how I help keep track of my pace and things like that, so I know how I'm doing. I will generally start right at the trailhead sign and go from there. And I have found that almost all the time, if the AllTrails thing, and it's done usually by actual AllTrails users, if the AllTrails thing tells you this is an 8-mile hike, it ends up being 10. Or this is a 5-mile hike. It's usually 6 or 7. It's a couple of miles off, which for a lot of people can make a big difference, right? And I understand that. It definitely can. So just kind of be aware of that. And again, I don't know. Maybe they're going by an actual. This is the official trail according to the East Bay Regional Park that starts here and goes to here, and so it's this long. And I start my thing at the trailhead sign, and that tells me it's this long. So I just know that consistently I have gotten more miles out of it. And I mean, I stay on the trail. I stay on the trail and things. But yeah, there was one I did in Round Valley that was supposed to be an 8-mile thing, so I was ready for that, and it ended up being 10. And it was no big deal. I mean, more miles was fine with me. It was a great trail, really loved it. Challenged me, but at the same time, I was just happy to do it. It was just awesome, and things like that. But yeah, for some people, that extra 2 miles, that could be a little too much. So, just be aware of that, it's kind of like the Wikipedia thing with AllTrails, is a lot of the information on there is by people who have used the trails. And so it may not be 100% accurate. It's going to be definitely within the reasonable ballpark, and that's good. And the other thing that I like about it is you can look at it and look for recent people who do entries. The trails can change and things like that. And so look at the most recent stuff, what people are saying about a trail, and you'll have reviews there. People can review trails You know, there was one trail was like, oh, this is a horrible trail. It's muddy and da 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 da. Well, you know, I'm smart enough to know that, okay, this person did that report in February. Gee, maybe the trail was muddy because that's rainy season and we had gotten a crap load of rain at that time. And yeah, so the trail was going to be muddy because guess what? 3 months later, somebody did a review of the trail, said it was beautiful. There was no mud whatsoever. Oh, maybe because, you know, it's April going on to May and everything has dried up because that's how the seasons work. But there are people out there that they gave the trail 2 stars instead of 4 stars or 5 stars because it was muddy. Well, you're hiking in February. Oh, you poor thing, you had mud puddles in February. You know? All right, no more of that rambling. See, I started rambling again. But basically, for me, that's how I'm finding trails. For those of you who may find that interesting, that's how I do it. I kind of start out with the old Google Maps, look for just general areas, and then I kind of tighten it in using AllTrails to really show me some of the tighter things. And remember that AllTrails isn't always perfect. I have found a few things like the Long Loop Trail, the White Slough Long Loop Trail. So it's an 8-mile loop trail. And when I went on it, sure enough, it was 8 miles, came out to the right distance. However, I really don't think that that's an actual loop trail because it goes out. I went out and along on, you know, it's one of those levee hikes. You go out on these levees, really beautiful, and then you get to a certain point and the levee all of a sudden becomes paved. And it looks kind of like private property. You're on a farmer's private property, even on the levee. He's got a road paved up there. And then sure enough, you get to a certain point and there's a gate that when you go around that gate, and there's a way to get around it, there's a little, you can see where people have moved around, made their own path. You get on the other side of the gate, it says no trespassing going that direction. So if I had gone that direction first, I would have hit that gate and it says no trespassing. But instead I went another way and that got you around out on the far levees. Now most of the time a county levee is a county levee. It's open during daylight hours and things like that. But there are private islands out here that are owned by farm corporations, big companies that do farming and things like that. And I believe even the levees themselves, the roads on top of them, belong to them. That's their private property. So you can't just go out there and walk. And I think part of that levee is that way. So, see, AllTrails tells you that that's an 8-mile loop trail, but it's not. There's a gate there that says don't go past this gate. But if you go another direction, if you get on to the levee at a certain point, which you can, and then go this direction clockwise, you end up behind that gate and you have to go around it. So, see what I mean? It's kind of you know, it's listed as an 8-mile loop. But if you try and do the full 8-mile loop, you're going to end up running into a gate that says no trespassing. So I don't think you're supposed to be looping that. I think you can go out, you know, to a certain point on the levees and then come back. So anyway, take some of the things that you get from that website with a little bit of a grain of salt. Maybe check and verify. I've started doing that myself, checking for certain trails. But it is a really good, basic, here's how it's done type of thing. Here are where the trails are type of thing. So that's kind of how I'm finding trails for now. I have had a couple of people ask me in person, like when I'm talking, hey, I see some of your videos. Where are you finding some of these trails? Because they're like me. They lived in this area for quite a while, many years, and had no idea that some of these were here. I didn't even know that some of these levee roads had bike paths on them until, you know, I figured it out. And my wife told me that there was quite a few because she got into running half marathons and things, and that's, you know, she figured that out, trying to find ways to get miles in to train. That a lot of these levees have bike paths on them, pedestrian paths. Some of them are not paved, but you still have full access to them during sunlight hours. You know, from sun up to sundown, you can walk on them and things. It's pretty cool. And I had no idea until I just started looking around and again using some of these online tools to get that. So that's basically how it is. It should work in your area too, even if you're not in the Central Valley, California. If you kind of look at just general parks, look up regional parks in your area, state parks, national parks. There's all kinds of different little park systems that you should be able to look up. AllTrails is international, so go for it. That you should be, no matter where you live in the United States at least, if not outside of it, you should be able to look up your area and give it whatever parameters you want, whether it's 50 miles, 100 miles, whatever. It should be able to tell you where the trails are in your area. And then from there, do some research, go beyond what All Trails says or whatever website you're going to use to find these trails. Actually look up the name of this trail, see what kind of information is there. Most trails will have some kind of agency in charge of them, whether it's your local regional park system or state or federal. Somebody will be in charge of it, and so they'll have a little blurb somewhere online about it. They'll give you some information and maybe some seasonal info and things. So that's it. If you're interested in getting out there, that's one way to search up different ways to do it. If you're in the deep city, there are still ways to do it. I know in San Francisco you've got Golden Gate Park, and there's some actual really nice walking paths through Golden Gate Park, things like that. So that's our hiker topic for the week, and hopefully you're enjoying. And for next week, like I say, I hopefully will have a little bit to tell you about from the Bay Bridge walk. Again, barring weather. If it's going to be pouring down rain in San Francisco, I don't know if I'm going to go on that one. I still might, though, because that's not one where I'm going to have to worry about, muddy trails or anything. It's the Bay Bridge Trail. I should be able to get across there. And I don't mind a little rain. So we'll see. But other than that, thanks so much. As always, thank you for watching, keeping track of me. And again, like I said, coming up this week, I definitely have one hike report coming and one road trip video coming, so watch for those this week on the channel. Other than that, as always, I will see you next week.